what I've got is, there's the Helix, and it's set at 96. 96 seems hot, but it's not hot. I know what my temperatures are. I know what my snakes are over top of this tape, and that's where that 96 come from. I'm in an 80, 81, 82, 83 degree room. If this room was colder, that might have to say 100. It might have to say 102 just to get the temperature the way I need it for my snakes. And when I say the way you need it, you can check the temperature inside the box, which will be inside one of your tubs, after it's been heated up a while and sitting there and your snake's on there and he's spread out and, you know, he's used the heat panel. You watch it. And you could use a little digital thermometer and put that in there with a probe and see what temperature it is, or you can use a temp gun and check it. But the main thing is, I try to keep my backside heat anywhere between 89 and 92, and that's a good spot. That's a good temperature for your snakes. If your snakes are too cold, you'll notice it because they won't leave the heat. You know, they'll always be balled up. They'll always be trying to get heat. They might even get sick. And if your snakes are too hot, a lot of times they won't rest. You know, they'll become restless all the time, back and forth, and, you know, they'll be rubbing their faces along the screen, which some people call the cheese grater, or they'll be plastered up at the front of the box. And a lot of times when snakes are plastered up at the front of the box, that means that they don't want to be near the heat or it's too hot. So you just got to play around with it. But I think optimal temperature back on the hot spot is anywhere between 89 and 92. And your snakes will tell you. If they want more, they'll ask for it. If they want less, they'll show you. So, probe placement. I usually go halfway. And the reason why I do this, and what I mean halfway, is halfway up. So, level 1, level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I come up 6 levels on the medium rack, and that's where I place the probe. Now, if I put that probe all the way down there on the floor where I already know it's cooler because I've checked it, that probe would try to keep it 96 degrees down there at the floor, and it would. But up top, all the way up there, it would be 120 degrees. Uh-oh, let's kill that. That's horrible. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, so you're going to have a difference. If you're just using one Helix per rack, you're going to have a difference. So basically you hit in the middle. So let's just say I'm at the middle, which we know I am. 96 is where I got it there. Of course, I'm going to be a couple degrees lighter, like 90 to 92, 93, 94 down there. And I might be 98, 99, 100 up there. That's just the way it works on one Helix per rack. If you wanted to, which some people have, they've actually taken their rack and they divided it in half. They've come up 6 levels and let one Helix run 6, and then they take the top 6 levels and let the other Helix run the other 6, which, you know, that's for anal people that don't want any type of variance at all. They want to make sure everything's all right. Basically, what I've got going on there is I know somewhere in the middle and up 2 or 3 and down 2 or 3 is close to what I want. Yes, the lower levels are slightly cooler, and that's why they're insulated, and the higher levels are a little bit warmer. But that's just the way it is. Your snakes will adjust. As long as you don't move them around within the system and they always stay where they're at, they'll acclimate, they'll be fine. And so that's how I work that. So now you've got your probe placement. God, that's hard to say. Probe placement. And you see how I've taped it on there, and I've just got it hanging back there. I don't really wire tie a lot of stuff or anything like that. I try to keep everything clean on the back, but I like things just to be able to hang free. Your probe, you just want to make sure that it's out of the way of everything that moves. And that means the boxes in and out. You know, no side to side, nothing like that. Now, this probe, whatever you do, make sure it is on that tape or it's on the heat panel good. Some people even Velcro them on there, and in fact, Freedom Breeder, I think, even supplies some Velcro with that. You can put Velcro around the probe, and you can Velcro it right to the heat panel. But Velcro to me isn't like tape. I mean, if I had my way, I'd glue it. But, you know, glue is another thing. So, if that probe stays there, you shouldn't have any problem. When that probe falls off, that's when you're going to have a lot of problems, because that's when your Helix doesn't have anything to gauge against. So your probe's out in la-la land, and let's just say your room's 75 degrees. Well, your Helix is going to try its ass off to get that heat up, because the probe's hanging in cold weather, and the probe and the Helix is saying, oh my God, I need to be 20 degrees hotter. Some people say if you plug in, you know, heat panels and just plug them into the wall, you know, they're safe, they get hot, but they can't cause fires, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't want to check that. You know, I'd always want to know that my Helix and my probe are working correctly. I wouldn't want to know that my heat panels and my heat tape are running wide open. And I've heard horror stories of people melting boxes, you know, burning melamine racks. I mean, I've heard all the disasters. And a lot of that is just from faulty heat tape being pinched or kinked or something like that, because, you know, the people don't know what they're doing with it in the first place. And, you know, somehow they've breached the integrity of the tape and they've had problems. But anyway, that probe tells, unless your Helix fails, which, knock on wood, that hasn't happened to me. I've got a few tweaked ones, but none of them have failed. But that's what keeps your temperatures right. That's what keeps your snakes happy, and it just takes some tweaking. And, you know, I've gone into people's places. Me and Pete Call are pretty much the same. We're 95, 94, 96 guys. But I've seen on other people's websites, you know, pictures that they've taken, or other facilities, I've seen that number a lot lower. I've seen rheostats non-existent, which totally blows me away. But, you know, they just heat the rooms. And then I've seen some rheostats set at 102. 100 or 102. In fact, I've got, there's one right there set at 100. And that's just because of where this rack is. It's out in a wide, clear blue open. It's my baby's. And, you know, to keep it right in the back the way I want it, that's where I set it. But you just got to tweak it. And that's where temp gun comes into play, or where a little, you know, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get a nice little thermometer with a little cord on the end that has a probe, a nice digital readout, you know, and it's got a probe and it's also got a little internal. So you got two places to check the temperatures. But that's the main thing. Doesn't matter what your Helix says. If your Helix says 96, and that bugs the shit out of you, but your snakes are sitting in there right now, just the way it's running, they're 91 and they're happy, that's fine. That just means that 96 means 91. Just like 100 means 91. That's just the way the rack is, and you got to tweak it. And it takes a little bit of time, but once you get it, you know, everybody will be happy. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything, because this video is already turned into a two-parter, maybe even a three-parter. Oh, these bars. These bars are my idea. But these bars that I've got on the front of all my racks are not for theft purposes at all. What these bars are for is every once in a while, when you get that adult snake that decides he's going to sneak out of his box, what he'll do is he'll come cruising around at night, and he'll go like this. And then he'll go through there, and he'll go like this. And the next thing you know, you come home, or you come into your snake room, and you've got 50 snakes out. And you're like, how in the hell? And what happened was, you just had a very crafty, skillful adult, or even a yearling. I mean, they can all do it. The boxes move very easily. They've gone through, they're trying to get on the heat panels, and they're letting all their buddies out. Well, I devised a plan, and I don't want that anymore. I can handle a couple adults running, but when an adult gets through a baby rack like this and pushes open a few levels and you got babies running all over the place, it makes you nuts. It's kind of fun to find them, but it still makes you nuts. But that's what these bars are. And a lot of people have seen this and actually have done it. And all it is conduit pipe and clamps. And you get your clamp bigger than the pipe so that the pipe moves. And all these things do is they just lift up and out. So there's one on the bottom, one on the top, and one on the bottom. And all you do is, where are we at? Push it up in. You got to go high enough to clear so that the bottom will drop in. And then everybody's going to be sick. I was doing so good. The bottom drops in. So they just sit on the floor. But they don't have to sit on the floor. You could make pins so that they pin in and they don't need to sit on the floor. But anyway, that's what I do. And I mean, the whole place looks like a prison, you know, when you're looking down the lines of them. But it really, really helps me sleep at night. I mean, I just know that, God forbid, something is out, and it happens. I mean, there's snakes. Nothing's going to push out. And that's just a little bit of rolled insulation right there that I've got on the edge, on the side of that rack, just because that rack is open to the sink here. and that fan that's exhausting, just so nobody gets a draft. But I think I got you guys covered on that as far as what I use. You don't have to use a Helix. There's other probes out there. There's other rheostats out there. There's other things out there. Everybody floats their own boat.